We're continuing in Unit 1, and our lesson today is comparing decimals, and this is the first part of a two-part video. The second part goes with the next lesson, which is Lesson 12. So we're asked to compare these two numbers. I'm going to just read them as they're written, 0.121 and 0.212. I'm going to read them again the mathematical way. Okay, compare 121 thousandths and 212 thousandths. Now we could, write this in a couple different ways. We could write it as a fraction. We'll do that in just a moment though. For right now, let's fill in our chart and let's compare them using the chart and then fraction form. So I'm going to find the decimal point. It's right here. There's a 0 on one side and 1, 2, 1 on the right hand side of the decimal point. Now I'm going to look at this number, 0 point, okay, so 0.2, next number is 1, next digit is 2. We can't compare them this way. I'm going to write them in fraction form, just because I think it's a nice comparison also. Because when we think of numbers in decimal form, we want to remember that decimals are a way of expressing fractions. These have the same value. And looking at it this way, hopefully it's a little bit easier to compare the value, but we want to practice comparing the value in decimal form as well. So what we do, we start, when we're doing operations, addition, subtraction, we start with the furthermost right. But when we're comparing, we start with the largest digit first, which in this case would be the tenths. We don't even have to look at the hundredths and the thousandths to know which number is bigger, because this number, let me just kind of circle it in yellow or put an arrow. This is 1/10. This is just without even thinking about the rest of it. This 2 in the tenths part signals that this is 2/10. Well, we know that 2/10 is greater than 1/10. The rest of it doesn't even matter because we already know that this number is bigger. So let's come back to our expression over here. 212 thousandths is the bigger number. So because I've written it like this, 121 thousandths on the left, 212 thousandths on the right, I would read this, 121 thousandths is less than 212 thousandths. So if I'm going to write that in decimal form, I would say 121 thousandths, and I would read it just as if it were a fraction. Let me switch to a little brighter color there. On the dark screen, that doesn't stand out as much. Okay, 121 thousandths. We read these exactly the same way, is less than, well, let me put my 0 there, 212 thousandths. We can compare them with fractions, and we can just look at the highest value digit in each number. Now, the length of the number, how many digits there are, is not necessarily the biggest number. It's simply the number with the most digits. If it's a whole number, well, yes, it is going to be the larger number, but if you put a decimal point in there, a decimal point significantly changes the value of the number. Let's look at the next problem. Here we have compare 0.401 and 0.401. Let's write them in our chart. 0.401. And the next one, 0.401. This is 401, and our last digit ends up in the thousandths over here, so it's thousandths, and this is 401 thousandths. How do these compare? Is one of them more or less than the other? Well, the decimal point's in the same spot. They are written exactly the same. They are equal. Okay, Thank you very much.